Samuel, a renowned businessman known both for his wealth and his commitment to philanthropic causes, found himself on a significant evening, dressed in an impeccable suit. He was heading to a charity event at one of the city's most luxurious hotels, an event aimed at raising funds for the less fortunate. The irony of fate did not escape him when, as he approached the venue, his eyes caught a scene that captured both his attention and his heart. At the bus stop in front of the hotel, under the dim light of the street lamp, was a young woman dressed in worn-out clothes, holding a baby wrapped in a thin blanket. Her tired eyes met Samuel's for a moment, a look that spoke volumes about her daily struggle for survival on the cold streets of the city. The scene was a poignant reminder of the reality many face, a reality far removed from the luxury and warmth of the event Samuel was about to attend. With a heavy sigh, Samuel continued his way into the hotel, the weight of the external scene bearing down on his shoulders. He knew he had a speech to deliver, a role to play that night that could indeed make a difference in many lives. However, the image of the woman and the baby remained etched in his mind, serving as a brutal reminder of the real purpose behind the event. Ladies and gentlemen," Samuel began, his voice echoing through the hall adorned with elegant decorations and tables covered with silk cloths, "we are gathered here not just to celebrate our achievements, but more importantly, to remind ourselves of those who are out there in the cold reality of our streets, struggling for a better tomorrow." Samuel continued, recounting the scene he had witnessed moments before entering the event. He didn't use the example to sadden his audience, but to inspire them, to highlight the urgency and necessity of their contributions. Imagine, he said, a life where your biggest challenge is not deciding what to wear to an event, but how to ensure your child has something to eat the next day. As Samuel's speech unfolded, a wave of emotion swept through the hall. He spoke with a passion that transcended the hotel's walls, a passion that touched the hearts of everyone present. His words were not just a call to action, they were a reminder of the shared responsibility to care for one another, to reach out to those in need. When Samuel concluded his speech, the hall erupted in applause. He had managed not only to fulfill his role as the night speaker, but also to reiterate the true meaning of that gathering. Although the woman and the baby at the bus stop were not there to hear his words, Samuel knew that the true measure of success that night would be seen in the actions that followed, in the lives that would be touched and transformed thanks to the generosity of those who had the power to make a difference. On that cold night, Samuel, dressed in his finest attire, walked through the brightly lit hall of the charity event. He had just delivered a passionate speech about the need to support marginalized communities, a theme that resonated with the hearts of the audience. As people from various walks of life approached to congratulate him, a woman with a serene presence caught his attention. Clara, a middle-aged doctor with a gentle look and a warm smile, approached Samuel. "Your speech was incredible, Samuel. You speak with such fervor about the need to reach out to the less fortunate. It's rare to see someone in your position so genuinely committed to the cause," Clara said. Samuel, flattered, thanked her. "Thank you, Clara. I believe we have a great responsibility to those in need. Each of us has the power to make a difference in some way." Clara nodded, her gaze becoming reflective. "It's true. Helping others has become a way for me to heal my own wounds. I lost my daughter and husband in a tragic accident a few years ago. Since then, dedicating myself to doing good has been my refuge, my way of keeping their memory alive." The sincerity in her voice touched Samuel deeply. He realized that, behind their achievements and recognition, there was a common pain about the fragility of life. "I'm very sorry for your loss, Clara. I can't even imagine what you must have gone through, but it's admirable to see how you've turned your pain into something so positive. That in itself is a great inspiration," as Samuel said, his admiration for Clara growing with every word. "Our lives challenge us in ways we never expect, but it's in our responses to these challenges that we find our true purpose. Family, whether formed by blood ties or chosen bonds, is where we find our strength and refuge." As the night progressed, the two continued discussing ways to expand the impact of their charitable actions, each bringing their unique perspective. As the evening drew to a close, Samuel reflected on the woman and the baby he had seen earlier. The conversation with Clara reinforced his determination not just to talk about change, but also to act concretely. He knew the journey ahead was full of challenges, but he was more determined than ever to make a difference, not just in words, but in actions. That encounter with Clara wasn't just an exchange of pleasantries, it was a powerful reminder that even in the most painful circumstances, we can find meaning and purpose in helping others. For Samuel, this became a new mission in life. In the night illuminated by elegance and promises of charity, Samuel, with the gravity of his thoughts recently compounded by the unexpected encounter at the bus stop, took the stage again. The audience, still echoing applause from his first speech, awaited more inspiring words. He cleared his throat, adjusted the microphone, and began with a firm but emotional voice. Ladies and gentlemen, Samuel began, tonight we have shared stories of triumphs and tragedies, of losses and hope. I want to tell you about a very special person, a man who fought his own battle against a cruel disease but never ceased to teach us the importance of reaching out to others. The audience quieted, hanging on his words, as Samuel continued sharing anecdotes about his father, lessons taught not just with words but with actions. A man is not defined solely by his own achievements, but by the impact he has on the lives of others. And today more than ever I feel the depth of those words. Concluding his speech with an emotional appeal for generosity and compassion, Samuel left the stage to another wave of applause. As he stepped away, his thoughts revolved not just around the words he had spoken but those he had heard earlier from Clara. Finding her again, the atmosphere seemed calmer, more intimate. Clara, he said, approaching with a grateful smile, your words earlier about family and helping others resonated deeply with me. Thank you for sharing your story. Clara, with a gentle expression and a hint of sadness in her eyes, nodded. Samuel, life teaches us in ways we don't always understand at the moment, but the important thing is to keep our hearts open and extend our hands whenever possible. Your talk about your father was very touching. They talked for a few more minutes, exchanging thoughts about life, loss, and the importance of making a difference. Samuel felt an unexpected connection, a kind of understanding born from sharing their vulnerabilities. As they said goodbye, Clara offered him a warm smile. I hope we can continue doing good, Samuel, each in our own way, said Clara. Thank you again, Clara, Samuel responded, feeling a mix of gratitude and reflection as he walked away. Samuel carried with him not just the memories of a night of eloquence and significant encounters, but also a renewed determination to live by the values that both his father and Clara, each in their own way, had reinforced in his heart, the immeasurable importance of helping others and valuing the bonds of family and community. After an intense day of speeches and meaningful encounters, Samuel left the charity event with his mind full of reflections and emotions. Night had fallen, and a light rain began to intensify, quickly turning into a downpour that soaked everything in its path. As he approached his car, his eyes caught a scene that had marked his mind earlier. Natalia, the woman with a baby he had seen at the bus stop, was still there, unsuccessfully trying to shelter from the rain under a narrow and inadequate overhang. The contrast between the warmth of the event filled with promises to help others and the cold, wet reality outside could not have been more striking. Samuel, dressed in his expensive suit and feeling the weight of responsibility, knew he couldn't just get into his car and leave. He approached the woman carefully, not wanting to startle her. Good evening. I'm sorry to bother you, he began, his voice gentle as he tried to cut through the sound of the rain. My name is Samuel. I couldn't help but notice that you and your baby seem to need a place to shelter from this rain. Natalia, surprised and initially wary, looked up. Her face was marked with worry, but there was a spark of hope in her eyes. Yes, we're trying to get to the shelter, but the rain started so suddenly, as she replied, hugging her baby closer. Samuel, feeling a wave of compassion, made a quick decision. I'm on my way to another meeting now, but I'd like to offer my home for you to shelter from the rain. It's the least I can do. Natalia was speechless for a moment, surprised by the unexpected generosity. You do that for us? She asked, clearly moved. Yes, of course. Don't worry about a thing. My driver will take you there. It's safe, and you can stay comfortable until the rain passes, as Samuel explained, handing Natalia the keys to his house. I'll arrive later, but please make yourselves at home. With a brief nod to the driver, who had already been instructed about the destination, Samuel bid farewell to Natalia and the baby. Take care, and if you need anything, my driver will be at your service. As Natalia and her baby were helped into the car, Samuel felt a mix of emotions. There was a certain discomfort in opening his home to strangers, but the feeling of doing the right thing was immensely stronger. He knew that somehow, his father Edevaldo and Clara's words about the importance of helping others and valuing family had influenced his decision. With this thought warming his heart despite the cold rain, Samuel got into his car and headed to his next meeting, hopeful that his small action could make a big difference in the lives of Natalia and her baby. Natalia, holding her daughter tightly in her arms, sat in the back seat of Samuel's luxurious car. Still trying to process the unexpected turn of events in her night, the driver, a middle-aged man with a kind expression, adjusted the rear-view mirror and smiled kindly at her through the reflection before starting the journey. Ma'am, I know all this might seem a bit strange, but Mr. Samuel is a very good person, he began, his calm voice cutting through the uncomfortable silence that had settled. He's always involved in charitable work and does what he can to help others. You and your daughter are in good hands. Natalia, still a bit tense and wary of the unusual situation, looked at the driver in the rear-view mirror. Have you worked with him for a long time? She asked, curious about the man who had without hesitation offered his home to her and her daughter. Oh yes. It's been a few years. I've seen Mr. Samuel do many good things. He truly cares about people, the driver replied, the city lights passing by the car windows, creating a calming effect. It's not every day you see someone with his wealth willing to do so much for others. The conversation with the driver began to calm Natalia's nerves, making her feel a bit more at ease with the situation. She looked at her daughter, who was already asleep in her arms, unaware of her mother's worries. After a smooth drive, the car finally arrived at Samuel's house. It was a large, imposing residence but with a welcoming air. The driver parked at the entrance and quickly got out to open the door for Natalia. We're here, ma'am. Let me help you with the keys, he said, handing the house keys to Natalia. Mère. Samuel instructed that you make use of the house as if it were your own. If you need anything, I'm at your service. Natalia, holding the keys in one hand and her daughter in the other, felt grateful for Samuel's generosity and concern. Thank you, she murmured, still incredulous at the kindness of a stranger. You're welcome, ma'am. Mère. Samuel will be back later. Feel free to rest and dry off, the driver said with a reassuring smile. I'll make sure the door is properly locked for you. Have a good night. As soon as the driver left, Natalia entered the house, still trying to grasp the unexpected kindness. She looked around, admiring the warm and inviting environment that now welcomed her. Despite the unusual situation and the strangeness of being in a stranger's house, she felt a wave of relief and security, knowing that at least for that night, she and her daughter had a refuge from the storm. Samuel, after an exhausting meeting, checked his phone to catch up. Among several notifications, a message from his father Edevaldo stood out. Heading to your house now. We need to talk. Confused, as he wasn't expecting a visit from his father, especially given his delicate health condition, Samuel felt a sudden urgency. He quickly bid farewell to his colleagues and hurried back home, worried about his father's well-being. As he approached his residence, his heart raced when he saw an ambulance parked out front. Concern overwhelmed him. My father, he exclaimed, getting out of the car and running toward the ambulance. The scene reminded him of Natalia and her daughter, whom he had left in his house. A series of alarming thoughts crossed his mind, fearing that something bad had happened because of that decision. However, upon entering his house, he was greeted by an unexpected sight. Natalia was there, visibly shaken but safe, standing next to a paramedic who promptly approached Samuel to explain the situation. Sir, your father experienced a sudden illness shortly after arriving. He was already here when we arrived, called by your neighbor, the paramedic explained with professional calm. It was a heart attack. We arrived in time to provide first aid, and now we are taking him to the hospital. He is stable but needs immediate medical care. Samuel, relieved to know his father was receiving the necessary help, but still scared, turned to Natalia to better understand the situation. Natalia, noticing the worry in his eyes, quickly explained, When we arrived, your father was already on the ground. I knew what to do, so I shouted for help. The neighbor heard and called the ambulance. I just tried to keep him awake until they arrived. Samuel, realizing the initial misunderstanding and the seriousness of the real situation, felt a mix of gratitude and remorse. Thank you for being here, he said sincerely to Natalia, and I apologize for thinking the worst. You helped my father. He approached his father, who was being prepared for transfer to the ambulance, and held his hand briefly, promising to meet him at the hospital soon. Then he turned to Natalia, offering a deeper thank you for her accidental presence, which had indeed been crucial at that moment. Please, stay here as long as you need, and once again thank you, as Samuel said before following the ambulance to the hospital, reflecting on the unexpected chain of events that turned a gesture of kindness into a life-saving action. In the hospital waiting room, the tension in the air was palpable. Samuel, anxious and worried, awaited news about his father's health. The sterile environment and the muffled sounds of footsteps and conversations only intensified his unease. Then a paramedic approached, bringing with him an air of calm and authority. Mère. Samuel, I have good news, the paramedic began, immediately attracting all of Samuel's attention. Your father was saved thanks to the quick action and first aid provided by Natalia. It was the onset of a heart attack, but we managed to reverse the situation in time. Samuel, relieved and surprised, could hardly believe what he was hearing. And Natalia, she saved my father? Yes, without a doubt, the paramedic confirmed. Her ability to recognize the symptoms and act quickly was crucial. Your father is recovering now and is expected to make a good recovery. The relief and gratitude Samuel felt at that moment were indescribable. He turned to Natalia, who was sitting discreetly in a corner of the waiting room, observing the scene. I don't know how to thank you, he said, approaching her. You saved my father's life. Natalia, somewhat uncomfortable with the attention, simply smiled modestly. I did what anyone would have done. I'm just glad that. She replied, her soft voice reflecting the humility of her words. Together, Samuel and Natalia went to the room where Edivaldo was being cared for. Upon entering, they found him awake, with a look of gratitude. Natalia, I have no words to express my gratitude, Edivaldo said, holding her hand. You have done more for me and my family than you can imagine. It was in this moment of shared emotion that Natalia began to tell her story. She spoke of her life marked by poverty, the recent loss of her job, and how the father of her child disappeared upon learning of the pregnancy. With no money for rent, she and her daughter were evicted and ended up on the streets. Life has been hard on us, and Natalia concluded, her voice carrying a mix of resignation and hope. But still we have to move forward, right, Aldo and Samuel? Aldo and Samuel listened attentively to every word Natalia said, resonating deeply with them. Her story was a poignant reminder of how unpredictable and challenging life can be. You are an incredibly strong woman, Natalia, Edivaldo said with admiration, and I owe you my life. I promise we will do what we can to help you out of this situation. Samuel nodded deeply, touched by Natalia's strength and resilience. At that moment, he knew that helping Natalia and her daughter rebuild their lives would be a priority for him and his family. Natalia's unexpected generosity had saved his father's life, and now it was Samuel's turn to give back, starting a new chapter of hope and mutual support. Days after the incident that nearly cost Edivaldo his life, Samuel found himself reflecting on the best way to help Natalia and express his gratitude. The idea came to him during a conversation with his father, who was already showing signs of recovery and was more than willing to express his admiration for Natalia. You know, son, Edivaldo began, and Natalia has shown herself to be a person of great heart and courage. She deserves a chance to change her situation. Samuel agreed, already with a plan in mind. The next day, he invited Natalia for a conversation where he presented a proposal. Natalia, After everything that happened and seeing how grateful my father and I are for your help, we would like to offer you a job. It would be to take care of my father during his recovery. Of course, you will be well compensated for it." Natalia, surprised by the offer, took a moment to process the words. "Samuel, this would mean so much to me and my daughter. I accept and am very grateful for this opportunity," as she replied, her voice trembling with emotion. From that moment on, Natalia's life took a new direction. Every day, she went to Samuel's house to care for Edivaldo, showing not only that she was a competent caregiver but also a pleasant companion. Over time, a strong friendship began to form between Samuel and Natalia, based on mutual respect and shared gratitude. Edivaldo, for his part, did not spare any praise for Natalia, always expressing his support for the growing friendship between his son and her. "Samuel, you made a great choice. Natalia is a remarkable woman," he would often say, reinforcing how much he appreciated her presence and care. Samuel and Natalia met every day, not only because of Natalia's job but also because they enjoyed each other's company. Conversations about life, dreams, difficulties, and hopes became common between them, further strengthening their bond. "You know, Natalia," as Samuel said one day, "I never imagined that a situation as frightening as my father's illness would lead us to form such a strong friendship." Natalia smiled. "A life is full of surprises, Samuel. I am very grateful for everything that has happened, despite the circumstances. Your family has given me hope again." Edivaldo, watching the interaction between them, felt happy not only for his own recovery but for seeing his son form such a significant connection with someone who had proven to be of invaluable worth. The friendship between them, strengthened by shared experiences of vulnerability and generosity, became a powerful reminder that even in the most challenging moments, the most beautiful human relationships can emerge. As days turned into weeks, the relationship between Natalia and Samuel blossomed in a way neither could have predicted. They met daily under the pretext of Edivaldo's health and Natalia's job, but with each meeting, their connection deepened. It was a strong friendship, marked by long conversations, shared laughter, and moments of mutual comfort. However, beneath the surface of this friendship, a silent passion began to ignite in both their hearts. Samuel often found himself captivated by Natalia's smile, by the strength she showed in every action, even in the face of life's adversities. Natalia, in turn, saw in Samuel a kindness and sincerity that deeply touched her. Both, however, kept their feelings carefully hidden, fearful of complicating the special relationship they had built. It was Edivaldo who, observing the dynamic between the two, decided to act, recognizing the loneliness of his own home and the potential for a larger united family. He made a generous proposal to Natalia. "Natalia, my dear, I see how well you and Samuel get along and I cannot ignore how much you have been a blessing in our lives," Edivaldo began one quiet afternoon in the living room. "This house is too big for an old man like me and a busy young man like Samuel. We would like you and your daughter to consider making this your home too. I will increase your salary, of course, but more than that, I want you to feel like part of the family." Natalia, surprised and moved by the proposal, felt a whirlwind of emotions. The idea of having a stable home for her daughter, of being part of a family that had shown her so much kindness, was more than she could have dreamed of. "I don't know what to say, Edivaldo. This is an incredible offer. I need to think about it, but thank you," as she replied, her voice trembling with emotion. When Samuel heard about his father's proposal, his initial reaction was one of complete support. "I think it's an excellent idea, Dad. Natalia, you and your daughter deserve all the stability and happiness we can offer," as Samuel said, looking directly into Natalia's eyes, conveying not only his support but also a glimpse of the feelings he had kept hidden. After careful consideration, Natalia accepted the offer. The decision to live together under the same roof marked the beginning of a new chapter for all of them. It was during this transition, as the line between professional and personal became increasingly blurred, that Samuel and Natalia finally confronted their feelings for each other. On a quiet night, after taking care of the day's responsibilities, Natalia found Samuel waiting for her in the living room. The silence between them was heavy with tension and anticipation. "Natalia, I need to say, I feel something for you more than friendship," Samuel confessed, his voice firm but filled with nervousness. Natalia, her eyes shining with emotion and relief, took a step towards him. I feel the same. I was afraid of ruining everything, but I feel the same. In that moment, with the moon shining outside and the comfortable silence of the house around them, Samuel and Natalia shared their first kiss, a seal of love and a promise for the future. It was the beginning of a new life together, built on the foundations of friendship, mutual respect, and a passion that had silently grown between them. On a starlit night, Samuel was carefully preparing his house, eager for the dinner he had planned with Clara, the doctor dedicated to humanitarian causes whom he greatly admired. The goal of the meeting was to discuss future charitable actions, a matter close to both their hearts. Clara arrived, bringing with her an aura of compassion and determination that Samuel deeply respected. During Clara's introduction to Natalia, something unexpected happened. Clara noticed a distinctive mark on Natalia's arm, a crescent-shaped scar. It was identical to the one on the daughter Clara had lost years ago in a tragic accident, a detail so specific it triggered a flood of emotions in the doctor, visibly shaken. This mark, it's the same as my daughter's, after the accident that took her and my husband from me, Clara began, struggling to maintain her composure. Seeing this scar is like reliving everything. Samuel and Natalia, both surprised and empathetic to Clara's intense pain, offered their support. Natalia, with deep empathy shining in her eyes, held Clara's hands. I can't imagine what you've been through. This mark. I've always had it, but never knew its origin. The ensuing conversation was filled with emotion and empathy, with Clara sharing more about the loss that had marked her life. Samuel, sensing the depth of the connection forming between the two women, suggested a careful approach. Clara, maybe there's a way to explore this coincidence, Samuel suggested gently. We may not know exactly how to proceed without a DNA test, but we can start by looking for records or stories that might shed light on this incredible similarity. Clara looked at Samuel and Natalia, a mix of gratitude and renewed hope in her eyes. That would mean the world to me, as she said, her voice thick with emotion. Even if we don't discover how our stories connect, your kindness has already brought some light to the darkness I've felt. Natalia, touched by Clara's story and the possibility, however remote, of understanding more about her own history, agreed to help in any way possible. We're in this together. Your story moved me, and I want to help find peace for both of us. The dinner, initially planned to discuss charitable projects, turned into a meeting of open hearts and shared stories. Although the journey ahead was uncertain, the willingness of Clara, Samuel, and Natalia to face it together spoke volumes about the strength of the human spirit and the importance of finding connections even in the most unlikely circumstances. Following Clara's revelation about the loss of her daughter and the existence of a similar scar, Natalia felt compelled to share her own story, one she rarely discussed. I've always known that the parents who raised me were not my biological parents, and Natalia began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. They were homeless, living on the fringes of society, but they had hearts full of love and hope. Samuel and Clara listened intently, hanging on every word. One day, while searching for food near a stream, they found me. I was just an abandoned baby with a few superficial injuries. Apparently, I had been left there alone at the mercy of fate. Natalia's story was moving, depicting a harsh reality but also the unexpected kindness that can emerge from the most desolate places. They never tried to have a child, knowing the difficulties it would bring to their already challenging lives. But when they saw me, something inside them changed. They saw in me a chance to fulfill a dream they never dared to have, and so they decided to raise me as their own daughter. Clara, still emotional and now also touched by Natalia's story, wiped tears from her eyes. What an incredible story, as she said, her voice trembling. Their kindness, your strength, it's inspiring. Samuel, equally moved, agreed. And Natalia, your story is a testament to the human capacity to love and care, regardless of the circumstances. It's truly inspiring. The conversation extended beyond dinner, with Clara sharing more about her lost daughter and Natalia listening attentively. Both found comfort in each other's company. Although their stories were different, there was a mutual understanding and connection that transcended their individual experiences. That night, Samuel, Clara, and Natalia not only discussed charitable actions but also shared parts of their lives that brought them together in an unexpected way. Natalia's revelation about her origin and Clara's story found common ground in their shared desire to make a difference, both in their own lives and in the lives of others. The meeting ended with hugs and promises of mutual support, each reflecting on the journey that had brought them to that moment. And while there remained an unsolved question between Natalia and Clara, the night had planted the seeds of a lasting friendship, based on understanding, compassion, and a shared commitment to helping those in need. After the night filled with revelations and sharing deeply personal stories, Natalia and Clara, driven by a mix of hope and anxiety, decided to undergo a DNA test. The possibility of such a significant connection between them, suggested by the coincidence of the crescent-shaped scar, had become a link that neither doubt nor fear could ignore. The days leading up to the results were filled with anticipation. Samuel and Edivaldo watched closely, offering their unconditional support to Natalia. Regardless of the outcome, they had become a family, and nothing would change that. Finally, the day of the revelation arrived. Clara and Natalia, accompanied by Samuel, sat together in a small office, holding each other's hands in a gesture of mutual support. When the envelope was opened and the words confirmed what Clara's heart already knew, emotions overflowed. You are my mother," Natalia said, her voice trembling with the magnitude of the moment. Tears of joy and relief streamed freely down Clara's face as she embraced Natalia with all the strength she had. My daughter, my dear daughter, I always knew in my heart that you were alive, that you would come back to me." Samuel and Edivaldo, witnesses to this emotional reunion, couldn't help but be overcome by the emotion of the moment, feeling grateful to be part of this story of love and reunion. In the days that followed, Natalia and Clara began to rediscover each other, sharing stories, dreams, and above all, the lost time. It was a natural decision for Natalia to move in with Clara, eager to build new memories with her biological mother. However, the bond she had formed with Samuel and Edivaldo was too strong to be left behind. "I may be living with my mother now, but that doesn't change what you mean to me," and Natalia explained to Samuel and Edivaldo, her words full of affection and gratitude. "You are my family too. I'll visit every day." Samuel smiled, hugging Natalia. "You will always be part of our family, Natalia. We're just happy you found your mother and that you have a second chance." And so Natalia divided her time between her new life with Clara and daily visits to Samuel and Edivaldo's house, maintaining the connection that had formed between them. The love and friendship that had blossomed in such unexpected circumstances continued to flourish, a constant reminder of the surprises life can bring and the power of love to unite and heal. After the emotional reunion between Natalia and Clara, life took a turn full of new opportunities and joys. One of the most significant changes was Natalia's decision to pursue a dream she never thought possible, going to medical school, inspired by her mother, who was a doctor and had dedicated her life to helping others. Natalia enrolled in medical school. "I've always wanted to do more, to help people in a meaningful way," and Natalia shared with Clara on a quiet evening after her enrollment. "Seeing what you do, the difference you make in people's lives, I want to be a part of that." Clara, tears of pride in her eyes, embraced her daughter. "I couldn't be prouder of you, Natalia. You have a huge heart and the determination to make a difference. Being a doctor is a challenging journey, but I know you will touch many lives." Natalia's academic journey was marked by challenges and achievements, with Clara by her side offering support and guidance. Living together strengthened their relationship even more, sharing both the joys and the difficulties of this new chapter. The intertwined story of Natalia, Clara, Samuel, and Edivaldo found a moment of celebration when the two women visited the house where so many changes had begun. Samuel and Edivaldo welcomed them with joy and warmth, eager to spend time with people they considered family. During the visit, Natalia and Samuel exchanged emotional glances and a secret smile before announcing big news. "We have a big announcement," Samuel began, his voice full of happiness. Everyone in the room turned their attention to the couple, anticipating the news. Natalia, holding Samuel's hand, said with a sparkle in her eyes, "I'm going to have a baby. We're going to have a baby." The news was met with an explosion of happiness and congratulations. Clara, moved to tears, embraced Natalia and Samuel, expressing her joy and pride. This is wonderful. I'm going to be a grandmother," as she said, laughing and crying at the same time. Edivaldo, equally emotional, hugged them all, celebrating the news of the family's expansion. "Our family keeps growing," he said. "I couldn't be happier about that." The story of Natalia, Clara, Samuel, and Edivaldo is a journey of love, reunions, and new beginnings. The news of Natalia and Samuel's baby symbolized not only the continuation of this journey but also the promise of love, hope, and happiness for the future. Together, they proved that families are built not just by blood ties, but by bonds of love and mutual care, ready to face whatever the future holds.